Chapter 8, Far Away. And we're here again. It seems like there's a marking here after all. A place like this would have been much smaller in the past, but erosion is a slow process after all. Based on this, I would say there's no doubt this cave system was in use at the same time as the structure outside. But we'll need to date these carvings to see how it aligns with the construction of the building itself. I used the nanosystem to record an image of the marking, but also took the time to sketch it down in my notebook as well and mark it on the makeshift map. When Vireo and the others returned, they'd map out the area with something a little more high-tech, but this was all I had. Vireo was the one who'd asked me to come back after reading my last write-up about the site. They were planning for the team to return, but it would be a few more days. He'd contacted me yesterday, slyly asking if I wanted to help him get a head start in marking all features in the surrounding area, anything that could be seen with the naked eye. Of course, I said yes. I was pretty sure he did it just to indulge me rather than because they needed my help, but I didn't care in the slightest. They're very welcoming of you, which is nice. I sat in the sand, sketching for a few minutes before brushing myself off and continuing the search. Actually, just thinking about that, like, they were very accepting of her, honestly, all in all. I mean, sure, Lynette was a little snippy some of the time, but all in all, considering these guys, you know, they exist outside the domes, and this is their first time meeting someone from inside the domes that wasn't Lance, they were very friendly and are involving her a lot, which is really nice. And now I can't remember if I read this line because I got off on a tangent. Anyway, I sat in the sand sketching for a few minutes before brushing myself off and continuing the search. It was odd to be here alone for the first time, but it was also nice that maybe I didn't need a babysitter anymore. Ooh, we love some independence for you, girl. Though I was certain Lance had never seen himself that way when he'd offered to walk with me. But now I was healed enough and knew the way, so I didn't need him to come with me. It wasn't like it was that far from the house, just a few kilometers. And now that Vireo had asked me for some specific information, I had even more reason to come back. In particular, they were curious about the cave, so I was spending most of my time in there. The last time I was here with Eden and Lynette, I had seen nothing in particular, but we'd been talking and none of us had looked that close. Now that I was taking time to pore over every inch of the walls, I'd found a couple of interesting discoveries. There was a pile of stone I thought might have been a structure of some kind in the past, based on the fact there was some sort of half-buried base structure beneath the rocks. It could have been a pillar or something, but it was a sign this area was more than just a random cave. The most exciting one was a larger carving etched on one of the back walls. I'd taken several images and sketched out what I could see, but I was going to spend more time analyzing the images back at Lance's house. I stretched and twisted my neck from side to side, trying to loosen the tight muscles. Sunlight filtered in from an opening above, and the wind groaned through. Maybe time for a break? I stifled a sneeze and left the cave behind for the open area with the main site. It looked the same as ever, not that I expected anything else. Now that I was here again, I was considering the possibility of using my Psi to look into the structure. But of course, after hearing about the Arraean labyrinth and how it would react to Psi, I was hesitant. How could I know if there were labyrinth bits right underneath me? And if there were, what if I triggered something in them? So I guess no peeking with Psi for now. That said, I shielded my eyes against the sun and glanced up at the surrounding hills. Since finding this place, I'd been wanting to get a look at it from above. When Lance and I checked for a path up the nearest rock faces, we hadn't found one that didn't look dangerous. Not that they were extremely high, but a tumble down one of them could result in substantial injury. Or worse. It would be so helpful to see the site from up there, though. And we had been working on my Psi. Mostly for things like shields, or just using my sphere to look around and increase awareness, sure. But I had been working on telekinesis as well. Turns out, Lance was right about it coming natural to me. Then again, when wasn't Lance right about something? The combination of my natural ability with my neuro enhancement sped the process up a lot. So the point was, it wasn't like I had no way to get myself up to the top of one of those hills. I could try to teleport. I had never done it intentionally before, but it wasn't like I had no experience with it. Or I could try to lift myself up there using telekinesis too. that might be more manageable. Virio's team would possess drones to get an aerial view, but he had asked me to double check for points of interest, and it would be so convenient to look down on everything from above. But I could just wait. Ha. Okay, we're not cautious, so that choice is locked to us. So we can either lift ourselves or teleport. Both of those options had the potential to go so wrong. You know, you gotta lift yourself for a while to get to the top. I had the most confidence in Morgan's teleportation ability. She hasn't teleported herself into a wall yet, and we're like route 6, 7, or whatever into this game. So, you know, I think she's pretty good. If she can teleport herself safely when a robot Terminator's trying to kill her, I think she can make it to the top of the rocks. I'm gonna go teleport. Teleporting. I'd done it 3 times. It had been a while, but I still remembered the sensation. And Lance had indicated that the important thing was mental image. Although if I was her, I would probably like try to teleport a short distance away first, just to be like, do I still know how to do this? And not just immediately go to the top of a mountain. So that should be enough. If I'd had no experience at all, I might be stuck. But that wasn't the case. And it's not like it was an enormous distance. I teleported over much wider distances than that. This is true. Right. I could just get a good look around up there with my sphere and choose a suitable spot to target. I shut my eyes, expanding my sphere outward. The image of the top of the hill became clear in my head. I still had a little difficulty with the concept of caging a location within my sphere. Lance had explained it to me when we talked about reverse cages. It was the same concept, but utilized in a slightly different way. It was sort of like targeting an area, or maybe zooming into it. I found it difficult to block out everything else, but I did my best to focus on one patch of level ground. Right. Now, teleporting. In the past, it had felt like stretching space out, but Ari had called it a jump. I tried to call up that same sensation and just picture mentally jumping from where I was to the area I had targeted. At first, nothing happened, and I thought maybe I just couldn't do it. But then something started in the pit of my stomach. A strange pull. The feeling of being right at the edge of a precipice. It was familiar, and I jumped. Nice! When I staggered out of that thing, I was at first elated. For about 2 seconds, before one foot came down on air and I realized I was falling. Oh no! I screamed as I tried to jerk myself back. Ow! How far did you fall? I fell on my backside hard, but continued to slide forward. My hands clawed at the ground, and I was just fortunate there was a small ledge below the top. The side of my body scraped over rough stone and loose gravel as I tried to stop myself. But I still hit the narrow ledge hard, only just catching myself before I slid further. Oh, Morgan, I'm so sorry I've hurt you again. I was grateful for the layers I was wearing, but my skin was still on fire. For a moment, I curled there, clutching the ground and panting in both terror and agony. I breathed hard, each breath blowing up a puff of grainy soil from where my face was pressed close to the ground. It was a long time before I wasn't afraid to move. The ledge I was resting on seemed steady, but it wasn't very wide at all. And from there, it was a long, steep drop. Well, that was a bad plan! Thanks, game. Appreciate you. So that was a bad plan. I was still breathing heavily when I twisted my head to get a look at the rest of the area and if there was anywhere else to go. There wasn't. My head throbbed in protest of that surge of adrenaline. Right! Overconfidence was bad. A lesson learned. Okay, sorry. Now how the hell do I get down? I had my vantage point, that was for sure, but I wasn't enjoying it at all. And with no way to climb down, I was left thinking I might need to try to teleport again. But all my confidence had evaporated. Clearly I overshot my target area. That could have ended badly. I mean, it did end badly, but it could have been worse. And now I imagined all sorts of scenarios. Like teleporting myself into the ground or something. I'll just stay here for a bit. Yeah. Getting stuck had not been in the plan, but I had to admit I'd given no thought to how I was going to get back down. Like, at all. So there was that charming oversight. And I dropped my damn notebook and all that. No! Great. Just great. I thought these abilities were supposed to be useful. Ugh. It hurt to breathe. I'd bruised myself up again. Surviving in the wilds was definitely not my forte. That much I was learning. As for getting down... I need to think about that some more. Maybe when I felt a little less shaky. Yeah. She just waited there until he's like, Morgan? I'm up here, help!
I'm curious what you were planning to do if I didn't come looking for you.
Hang there all night like a terrified brush leopard, I suppose.
Ah, humor. I see. This is where I'm supposed to laugh.
I hissed through my teeth as he dug another rock out of my side, then doused the area in antiseptic. Ow! Good grief. This poor guy's like, and now I gotta fix her again. I was on the sofa, doubled over a pillow, with my shirt off while he doctored the massive scrapes and bruises on my side from that fall earlier. Lance had come looking for me when he realized a dust storm was kicking up on the horizon. And he had helped me down. It involved a lot of coaxing, some harrowing climbing, and a desperate jump into his beautifully cybernetic arms. This girl is so gone. It's like everything's beautiful. Even his cybernetic arms are so beautiful.
I hope you realize you could have got yourself killed.
I do realize that, actually. Sort of hit me when I almost fell off a cliff to my doom.
It would have been better had you realized it before you made a massively unwise decision.
Okay, I'm sorry. Look, she's usually really good at this, okay? Where's the fun in that? Ouch!
That's what happens when you scrape half the skin off your back and get gravel in the lacerations for good measure.
Well, you know me. Always an overachiever. A soft chuckle came from behind me, then silence.
I should have made sure you had the ability to message me before you went off alone at the very least. Honestly, I've been waiting for you to do something ridiculous like this since we've been working on your Sci.
I glanced over my shoulder at him. Is that so?
Well, given some of your behaviors in the past, I've always felt you were a little reckless.
I like to think of myself as daring.
Was it that difficult to wait on a better option?
Yes, it was.
Have you always been this impatient?
I can be patient when I need to be.
You are really new to Sci to be doing things like this. I'm sure your mother does not want a call from me giving her very bad news about her daughter.
Yes, you're right. I know it was stupid.
I'm trying to impress upon you it was dangerous.
Dangerous, stupid, whatever. And yes, my mother would lecture me harder than you are. For at least a week. Daily.
Shall I do it in her place, then?
Please don't. I assure you, I've learned my lesson.
How is your family doing anyway?
Same as always. Mum is worrying about me being stuck out here, but understands why returning now would be a problem. They're keeping close watch on Syrah now that violence has broken out there again.
Ah yes, your brother. Is he safe?
He's in a fringe settlement, so there's no fighting there. But they're having some supply issues, given all transports are shut down for the time being. We're lucky he can still contact them, but he and Dad have some connections.
I'm sure it's stressful.
It's like this every time it happens. But at least he's safe. She also said that Endgame seemed to leave them for a while, but resurfaced again to ask if they'd seen me. Mum was very proud of the fact she could honestly tell them no and still deceive them. Nice, Mom.
I suppose she hasn't technically seen you.
Those were her exact words, too.
It's curious they resurfaced, though. That shouldn't happen without a catalyst.
Right? That's what I was thinking. I'm like, why the sudden interest again? You don't know what it was?
Perhaps due to the actions of someone else. Nyx has continued their search, though the trail has gone cold because of your teleporting from the crash site. They were trying to define your range based on locations you teleported to prior to the crash. I believe everyone expected you to go back to your parents at first, but that didn't happen, and they're still unaware you've been in contact. I'm finished. You can get dressed.
I heard him turn away and sat up again, wincing at the movement. I tried to wriggle back into my shirt with as little movement as possible, but as soon as I was back in it, I gingerly laid myself back down, letting out a breath. I was going to be sore for a couple of days. He continued when I was finished.
That you disappeared off the grid is, in its own way, suspicious. Endgame secured the crash site as soon as possible, but Nyx investigated it as well. Both groups use psychometrists there and are well aware you didn't die at that location. Since you've yet to resurface, it means you died elsewhere, or you are in a place protected from site-based abilities. It's possible Nyx has looked to the waste. In which case, Endgame will follow suit if they haven't already begun to look for you out here. Of course, Endgame is the only group with the jurisdiction to search here. I'll do a thorough check in their system to see what's happening. If it's in secure channels, it'll take more than a cursory glance to spot it.
Is it that problematic if they look out here? Even if they think I escaped to the waste, surely they'd believe I died out here. No one knows you're here, and even if they found this habitat, you'd gone far out of your way to find me at that location. They couldn't assume I'm here. And under normal circumstances, a lone girl teleporting into the middle of the waste would die.
That's why I believe Endgame moved on from the search. Your known range is relatively small compared to the distance you traveled. I doubt the search radius would be this large. Endgame also has many other worries besides a rogue queen rank, the conflict on Syrah, and there was a recent issue with Arraean relics that came up.
Damn, okay, so both of those things are happening at the same time right now. Interdosting.
Finding you has moved quite far down on the priority list. The problem is Nyx. They're desperate to find their own queen rank, and they have the backing of the Delphinian government. They're expending great resources to find you.
I can't believe they'd waste so much time and effort to find a single person.
They're intent on making sure that if you're alive, no one else finds you first. Power is everything on the night side. And right now, the balance of power is in Crimson's favor. And has been for far too long. There's no way the government can allow that to continue.
There are so many more things they could be doing other than worrying about me.
I agree. But sometimes humans find it difficult to focus on the important things.
The way people act like Espers are just a resource to be fought over is revolting. I tried to ignore it before, but now... What happened to me isn't right. And what happened to you isn't right. If it happened to us, it's happened to many others. Endgame should fix this.
Endgame has lost its focus from its early years, I admit. It was meant to help everyone, but not at the expense of Espers.
They need to realize people like us have dreams. Goals. We shouldn't have to live like we're being hunted. When everything happened, it was like I'd lost all hope of achieving the things I wanted to achieve. Or doing the work I wanted to do. That feeling was so dark. Like falling into a hole with no hope of ever getting out again. If I hadn't found you... If I hadn't come here...
Are you satisfied with it, even if it's not what you hoped for?
Yes! Yes! The things I've experienced here, I couldn't experience anywhere else. And the people I've met here, I couldn't meet anywhere else. I'm glad I came here. I didn't think I'd ever be able to say those words when I first arrived, but I could say them now. If I had to do it over again, I think I'd want to try it with fewer broken bones. But I would want to come here. I was one decision away from signing my life over to Endgame, and if I did that, I'd never have met you. I don't like to think about that. Anyway, we've talked about my day and my rants, but you haven't told me what you were up to while I was out. Must have been nice to have the house to yourself again after so long.
On the contrary, I quite missed your presence here while you were gone.
Aww. I flushed, smiling slightly, because of course he'd say that. I missed having you with me as well. It was strange being alone after so long.
I'm glad to hear you missed me. I spent most of the time in the workshop.
How's the new sculpture coming along?
With the preliminary sketches out of the way, I started with a miniature with a polymer clay. It'll help me work out the kinks before I start working with the bigger pieces.
I can't wait to see it.
I look forward to showing you. I think this one will be particularly mesmerizing when it's complete. The rotating blades in particular.
Ooh. I'm always amazed by the sheer breadth of skills you possess. Sculpting, sewing, cooking, making pottery, gardening. It's true, he's a man of many talents.
Some of the skills are things I needed to learn. Others are things I just picked up to help pass the time. I like working with my hands. I always have. It started with drawing, though. I had picked that up before I left Delphine. Eventually, I moved on to other things.
Can I see the sketches of the new sculpture?
Oh, sure.
He left for a moment, looking pleased that I'd asked. We're gonna see sketches. I haven't seen sketches. This just reminds me of like Changeling, Nora's sketchbook. I'm like, I'm so excited to see sketches. I took the opportunity to get myself back up to a sitting position, shifting to an arrangement where I was leaning on the side that didn't get scraped to the heavens when I almost fell off the cliff earlier. Lance returned in a few minutes with the sketchbook in hand. He gave it to me and settled on the sofa next to me as I looked over the sketches for his sculpture. The sculpture drawings were quite technical and carefully measured out with a straight edge and compass. But I was surprised to find other drawings as well. Portraits and rough sketched figure drawings of birds or other animals. And people. None of whom I recognized, of course. Are you in a sketchbook? Yo girl, you in a sketchbook? I glanced up at him once to verify it was okay to look through it, and he just nodded with a faint smile. It was like looking through his memories. There was a stern-eyed man in a suit. So many drawings of him, actually. Aw, he drew pictures of his dad. Stop. Lance told me it was his father. There was a slight resemblance, but only slight. Around the jaw and mouth a little. Lance had a far kinder face. But perhaps the kindness would be gone from Lance's face if he'd stayed there. Delphine wasn't an easy place to live. There was another face I saw often, maybe more than Lance's father. It was a young man with shoulder-length hair and a gentle expression. Interesting. I'm so curious. I'm gonna have to do this for the sweet ending. I'm going to have to meet Kesa in the common route and see if she's like, wait a minute. So I think I met up with Magnus. So I was kind of expecting Magnus to play some part in this route at some point. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like run into him early. But for sweet route, I think I'm gonna go Kesa. See if anything changes here. Who is this?
That's my little brother Kesa.
Are you gonna tell him he's devastatingly beautiful? Ah, the mysterious little brother. Somehow I pictured him looking more like you.
Huh. We don't look much alike. I favor my mother, and I assume Kesa must favor his. I never met her, though. Neither of us take after father much.
I'm not sure about that. I can see a little of you both in him. It's strange because your father seems somehow familiar to me. Your father too, a little.
You may have seen them before. They both make media appearances from time to time.
Why is that?
Well, the Fianchettos are a powerful influence in Delphine.
Wait, you're... Oh my god! Realization hit me! Deimos and Kesa! Deimos Fianchetto! I couldn't believe I just realized it. I didn't keep up with celebrities, so I didn't make the connection right away, but the Fianchetto family was well known. The name Kesa Fianchetto was definitely recognizable to me, and that's why he felt a little familiar. I dimly remembered the fuss from when Deimos, the elder son of the Fianchettos, had gone missing. I'd been young at the time, but it was all over the news for a while.
The truth is, I was reluctant to tell you this, but I feel I should apologize for my family. Kesa was the one who first became aware of your presence. And my father ordered him to retrieve you, with the intentions of having you join the family. Not the Fianchettos, but Crimson.
Well, that's gonna be a bombshell for her to, process. A little strangled sound of disbelief escaped me. Yeah, the
Sorry. I know that's probably a shock. But yes, the Fianchettos are the ones who are behind Crimson. And my father was the one who ordered them to go after you.
I was silent a long time, taking that revelation in. I can't believe the Fianchetto family is involved in the Delphine underworld.
Well, just about everyone with any sort of power in Delphine is.
That made sense, I supposed. He always spoke about his family with such affection, it was hard to imagine them as the leaders of a crime syndicate. It just didn't fit with the image I had of them from everything he told me. Delphine seemed like a complicated place. I ran my fingertips lightly over the drawing of Kesa. I knew Lance had already decided to not contact them. Looking at these drawings made me wish I could change his mind on it, though. Same! I want the brothers to reunite, please! It was obvious how much he still loved them, in spite of who they might be to the rest of the world. I turned the page, startled to suddenly be confronted by a drawing of a very familiar face. You've drawn me, too? Nice.
Does that surprise you?
A little, I guess.
I confess I've been a little preoccupied with your face of late.
Nice.
I don't feel I've quite captured you just yet.
I think it looks amazing.
I don't know.
He tipped his head to the side, reaching a tentative hand towards my face. For a split second, he hesitated before setting his gentle fingers against my cheek. He traced a line from my cheekbone to my jaw, his gaze following the motion of his hand. When his thumb glanced across the corner of my mouth, a soft breath escaped my lips. Lance's eyes immediately went there, then lifted to mine. For a moment, I forgot to breathe.
I really haven't captured you at all.
I swallowed hard as his thumb ran over my lower lip.
I keep having this dream. You leave here, and I'm alone again. And despite all the hundreds of years I spent alone as king without you, I suddenly can't bear it anymore. Isn't that strange?
I shut my eyes and reached up to take his hand and hold it to my cheek. I don't think it's strange at all.
I thought I was fine here by myself. I was fine for so long. Or maybe I was never fine, and it took you coming here to show me how much I missed. All of this.
Is that the only reason you're doing this? Because you missed human contact? That would have been understandable, but it wasn't at all what I wanted to hear from him.
That isn't the only reason. Not even close to it. I thought I was just going to help you, but instead you changed everything.
He leaned closer, gaze falling back to my lips.
And now I want things I haven't wanted in a very long time. I feel like every moment is so beautiful when I'm with you. So beautiful I don't want to let it go.
I feel the same way. I'm so glad it's not just me. I squeezed his hand, leaning my cheek against it. So glad. I thought he was going to kiss me, but at the last minute, he stopped, then shifted to press a delicate kiss to the top of my hair before resting our foreheads together. He takes things so slowly. I love it. Oh, he has a way with words. The air between us was somehow both heavy and soft, and full of gentle hesitation. I couldn't be sure why he wavered, but if I really thought about it, he had to be working through quite a lot. Deimos would have had feelings for someone in the past, but King? I could imagine that, in a way, this was very familiar, while in another way it was all very foreign. And perhaps a little frightening. So I would let him move at his pace. I was just happy to know his feelings. I wound my arms around him and laid my head on his shoulder. Then couldn't quite keep back the groan of pain. Ah, so romantic. Ow! Lance almost jumped back from me in shock. The movement was so sudden and panicked, it was almost funny. I let out a soft laugh and slumped back against the pillows.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
What are you apologizing for?
I forgot you were injured. I shouldn't be keeping you up. Do you want me to help you to bed?
I could make it on my own, but that would be nice. He clearly realized it too if I was going by that knowing, amused smile on his face. Stop, you guys are so cute. But it didn't stop him standing and sliding his arms under me, then lifting me to his chest. Ah! I love it! Give me that bridle, Carrie, let's go! A smile crept onto my face as I settled against him. Yes, this was good. I approve. Would you stay with me a little longer? Lance seemed surprised by the question as I settled into the bedding. He sat on the edge curiously.
Is the storm bothering you?
No. I just thought it would be nice to have company a while longer. Unless there's something else you need to do. I'm well aware you barely sleep. He laughed a little as he swung his legs onto the bed and moved closer.
I forget I need to sometimes. I've been much better with it since you arrived. When you're in bed, it reminds me I should sleep as well.
I snuggled closer to him, pleased with this development. I assume you need 8 hours like the rest of us.
I struggle to get more than 5 at a time, though.
That sounds like me during exam season.
Then there is an entire season... That there is an entire season dedicated to exams sounds almost frightening.
Right? You didn't have exam season in Delphine?
The system isn't as grueling there.
What were you studying back then? Were you studying?
Business. It was the most logical degree for taking over after my father. Though I was only aiming for a minor degree. Nothing more substantial than was required for appearances.
I thought that a business degree didn't suit the current Lance at all. I wondered what his father would think if he saw him now. What my mum would think if she could see me. I fell asleep to the sound of another person's heartbeat for the first time in a long time.